Thank you very much.
You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome host of the Michael Knowles Show, Michael Knowles.
Hi. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you. Oh, look at this. Look at these beautiful, patriotic, energized. Ooh, I love it. I love being at CPAC. It is always a pleasure to be at CPAC. I felt like an old man when I was thinking about this trip because I first came to CPAC in 2011. And it was fun then, it's been fun ever since, but something feels different this year. Doesn't it? Something. What is it? What is that thing? I don't think that it's just that we won. Because, we won in 2016. Some people say we won in 2020. I'm not going to get into it. But it can't just be that we won. I think the big difference this year is that we won, and we won the popular vote. That was the big difference. Most voters in this country voted for Donald Trump. Huge swaths of every demographic, including groups that Democrats have had a lockdown on for decades. We're talking about an historic proportion of black male voters, almost half of Hispanic voters, something like 50% of women over 45, even, this one really shocked me, 40% of women under the age of 30. That was the most Kamala-y demographic, and we still got that. So many of them voted for Trump and for Republicans in the House and the Senate. It was a clean sweep. It was a clear mandate, and it was a mandate for common sense. That's the only way to explain this broad coalition of people who usually argue with each other. Republicans, disaffected Democrats, conservatives, liberals, people across both sexes and all ages and all races. The Democrats lost the common sense. And their loss is our gain, not only at the ballot box, but also in expanding the political imagination, in opening up the discourse that we can have in our politics. For too long, uniparty elites have limited political discourse to exclude the common sense policies that people actually want. Just look at immigration. For decades, we have been told that we have two choices when it comes to immigration: more illegal immigration or more legal immigration. And sometimes the left and the right, they compromise and they give us both. Great. But it turns out that most Americans do not want more immigration of any kind. Most Americans want drastically less immigration, legal and illegal. Gallup polling last July found 55% of Americans want overall immigration reduced. This backs up another poll from 2018, Harvard-Harris, found that most Americans want annual legal immigration capped at about 500,000. That is about 60% less than the current levels. That is about 85% less than overall immigration levels. That is what most Americans repeatedly have indicated that they want. And it's perfectly reasonable. Today, we have the highest foreign-born percentage of the population that we have ever had in our nation's history. It is not possible for a nation to maintain social cohesion and its own way of life while taking in unlimited numbers of foreigners. There's nothing bigoted about that observation. And yet, until recently, that view, the preference of most Americans, was totally unrepresented by either major political party. Look at the LGBT ideology. In recent years, uniparty elites have told us that we have two options. Either we trans the kids in kindergarten or we wait until they turn 8. Maybe if we're lucky, we can wait until the kids are out of elementary school before the indoctrination begins. What kind of a choice is that? Within the past decade, transgenderism did not exist in public life at all. Not in schools, not in sports leagues, not in bathrooms, not in the military, not anywhere. And things worked a lot better then, and probably we should return to that. To put in perspective just how rapidly this gender-bending LGBT ideology has been forced upon us, consider that Barack Obama, in the final year of his first term as president, held that marriage is the lifelong union of a man and a woman ordered toward the procreation and education of children. Hillary Clinton believed that too. Basically, everybody believed that. Everyone, everywhere, for statistically all of human history, has understood that fact. That is the only definition of marriage that distinguishes it from other kinds of relationships. Marriage was not invented by ideologues, and it cannot be redefined by ideologues either. It is a natural institution. Not even the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court wants to try, but not even they can change that reality. It just is what it is. Nothing bigoted about that observation. It's just a fact. Here's another fact, basic stuff. God exists. Simple. We can know that. Even in our relentlessly secular political order, 81% of Americans believe in God. And you know, that is actually the lowest number ever recorded. Historically, the number is north of 95%. And still, that means that the overwhelming majority of Americans believe in God. And that is because the existence of God can be known with certainty from human reason. But these days, you would not know that, judging by our public institutions. In recent decades, uniparty elites have offered us two options when it comes to religion. Keep it private, or don't keep your religion at all. In public, federal agents spy on our churches. They sue members of religious orders. They imprison parents for praying peaceably outside of abortion mills. Maybe, just maybe, we're permitted to entertain religious thoughts silently in our own minds. But the moment that we start talking about or acting on those ideas in public, we're in trouble. But religion is not just some private privilege. Religion is a public right. Our very country is predicated on the idea that God exists and that we are made in his image. God is in the Declaration of Independence. He's in our national anthem. He's even on our money. The fact that in recent decades, our political class has largely removed God from public life is an aberration and a national scandal, and it needs to be reversed. Now, of course, it's not really possible to remove religion from politics because lawmaking entails moral judgments, whether we're talking about abortion or whether we're talking about parking tickets. Politics requires us to come to certain conclusions about human nature, about justice and mercy, sin and grace. Politics always and everywhere involves rituals and veneration, reward and punishment. These things are inescapable. So when the ideologues remove traditional and true religion from our politics, they can only replace it with their own novel and false religions. They replace Christmas displays with pride parades, sturdy virtues with modern values, faith, hope, and charity with diversity, equity, and inclusion. They ban the Bible from schools, and then they assign gender queer. That is to say, they remove the most important book ever written, the book without which it is not possible to be an educated person, and they replace it with their own neo-Gnostic nonsense. Is it any wonder that our rulers got so stupid? You saw the consequences of taking the Bible out of schools a couple weeks ago when our vice president invoked a basic Christian concept, and our political establishment started alternately drooling and shrieking. When he was asked about mass migration, J.D. Vance brought up the order of charity, which is the idea that we owe more to the people closer to us than to people who are further away. This is an observation. It's so obvious. It's articulated in Scripture. It's written about by the great Christian thinkers, but it's also just common sense. It does not take a PhD in philosophy or theology to know that we owe more to our kids than we do to face-tattooed Mexican gangsters. Now, of course, this means that our political leaders owe more to American citizens than they do to foreigners. That's the point JD was making. That is the meaning of the phrase America First. It's not that we don't wish to help people around the world. We certainly do. We're the most charitable nation in history. But it is perverse for our political elite constantly to prioritize the whims and desires of foreigners over the needs of citizens. A nation without a proper concern for its own well-being can never, in the long run, be good to anyone else anyway. This is why when we're on the airplane, they say, put your own mask on before you help others. You need to have things in order. For decades, our uniparty elite have told us we have two options when it comes to charity and the common good. We can either erase our national borders, or we can try and fail to build democracies in the Middle East. Or we could do both, I guess. Those were our options. But you know, there's a third option, and it happens to be the option that most Americans want. We can rebuild our own country. We can help our own citizens. Charity, after all, begins at home. We do not have to accept the false dichotomies offered to us by a corrupt political establishment. We can form new coalitions. We can elect new leaders. We can have our country back, and we can even make it great again. Thank you very much.
Newsmax has been